growing number of people are reporting sightings of strange, shadowy figures around the globe. It begins with a glance out of the corner of an eye, a chance sight of something moving. Then, when least expected, the figure appears in front of the witness. Menacing dark apparitions, so black your eyes seem to slide off it. They move and undulate while watching you. Eyewitnesses say they awaken to shadow people stalking them, watching them, or darting out of sight when encountered. Reports are from sane and reasonable people from all walks of life. Is this some new psychological phenomenon, or intruders from some other nefarious dominion? A number of religions, legends, and belief systems describe shadowy spiritual beings or supernatural entities such as shades of the underworld. Various shadowy creatures have long been a staple of folklore and ghost stories. Descriptions of shadow people are as dark silhouettes with human shapes and profiles that flicker in and out of peripheral vision, and claims that people have reported the figures attempting to jump on their chest and choke them. Witnesses report the figures to be negative or alien beings that can be repelled by various means. Believers and paranormal authors do not agree whether shadow people are evil, helpful, or neutral, and some even speculate that shadow people may be the extra-dimensional inhabitants of another universe. Several psychological conditions can account for reported experiences of shadowy shapes seeming alive. A sleep paralysis sufferer may perceive a shadowy or indistinct shape approaching them when they lay awake, paralyzed, and become increasingly alarmed. A person experiencing heightened emotions, such as while walking alone on a dark night, may incorrectly perceive a patch of shadows as an attacker. Many methamphetamine addicts report the appearance of shadow people after prolonged periods of sleep deprivation. Shadow animals are often reported as well. However, one interviewed subject said that you don't see shadow dogs or shadow birds or shadow cars. You see shadow people. Standing in doorways, walking behind you, coming at you on the sidewalk. These hallucinations have been directly compared to the paranormal entities described in folklore. Indeed, shadow people have been reported throughout recorded history. Harley Swift-Deer Reagan, known as Thunderstrikes in his tribe, stated that shadow people are parallel dimensional beings who were first recorded by indigenous people in 1153 BC. Thunder says there was an awakening between 1980 through 2000, and beginning in 2001, there began the quickening, in which events and time seems to be speeding up. As this is occurring, shadow people are becoming visible as frequencies raise. Thunder stated the shadow people, who he calls inorganic beings, live in a parallel dimension and feed off of our emotional discharge of energy along with chaos. In essence, shadow people are energy vampires. Cherokee legend speaks of the Raven Mocker, which shifts from a menacing bird into a grotesque human-like shadow. It was believed the Raven Mocker's mission was to capture the souls of those who were facing death. Many report seeing shadow people wearing a cloak or a shroud. Some may appear to be dressed in robe-like apparel. Although they have been reported in many shapes and sizes, many people describe them as small, human-like figures with red eyes. Heidi Hollis, a controversial researcher of this phenomenon, says she was of the belief that they are evil in nature, and that they had been around since the Earth's inception, and that they possibly had an extraterrestrial connection. Islam speaks of the jinn, who were created along with humans as creatures of free will. They, along with humans and angels, are part of the creations of Allah, capable of logic and reason. According to his belief, the jinn live in a world alongside ours, and like us, are capable of either being positive or negative. It is thought that some of the legends of shadow people come from the possibility of humans seeing the shadows of the jinn while they exist in their parallel world. There are religious groups that view shadow entities as demonic in nature. The shadows themselves are not thought to be demons, but rather watchers for potential souls to be claimed. This way of thinking assumes that when one is seen, a demon is present. Cleansing and blessings must be done to avert any negativity that is trying to permeate the person or the home where the shadow is seen. This is generally done with a blessing of the area in the name of whatever higher power a person believes in. As in anything, it is the power of belief that determines how well something like this would work. According to a poll, approximately 80% have seen a shadow creature, and 30% believe that shadow creatures are evil. One of the things that is fascinating about shadow people is the similarity of the descriptions from all over. The most common descriptions of a shadow being is that of a tall man wearing a wide-brimmed hat. Details vary as to whether he has no facial features at all or glowing eyes of red or yellow. Some speak of only seeing this creature once in their life. Others have reported seeing several sightings concentrated in one area. The similarity lies in the stature of the creature and the hat it appears to be wearing. There is also the general consensus that it is malevolent in nature. One thing is certain, this hat man is believed to have been seen in places all over the world. In the United States, there seems to be an emphasis of sightings on the Northeast. However, it is certainly not indigenous only to those areas. One of the things that sets the Hat Man accounts apart from some of the other shadow entities is the interest this creature seems to show in those who have seen it. While many shadows are seen out of the corner of the eye, only to disappear once one focuses on them, the Hat Man seems to want to be seen. This seeming intelligence of the entity is possibly what gives it the negative perception that it has. Everything about shadow entities is theory at this point, and there are many scientific facts that cannot be ignored. To truly understand something, all sides need to be examined. Science shows how something can have a natural explanation, which is essential to look at. Only after ruling out what can naturally cause something can we look at other possibilities. What are shadow people? It depends on who you ask. If you ask a psychologist, they will tell you it's just a hallucination. Scientists say shadow people are a common hallucination for humans to have. They usually appear as a result of sleep deprivation, psychoactive substances, or hypnotic states. During this experience, the subject perceives a patch of shadow in their peripheral vision to be a living figure. This can be either animal-like or humanoid in appearance. This hallucination is often accompanied with a feeling of intense paranoia and anxiety. The visual hallucinations are initially fleeting images, always out of the corner of the eyes. As time progresses, however, the hallucinations may appear in full view, and one will be able to look directly at them. This progression is the same whether you are experiencing shadow people from sleep deprivation or from normal stimulant psychosis. The bodies of the shadow people are usually entirely black with few features. They sometimes appear to have faces and are able to move or change shape. These hallucinations are often perceived as being malicious due to intense paranoia and anxiety that often occurs simultaneously. Tactile hallucinations, feelings of convincing physical sensations that are not actually occurring within reality, may also occur. Auditory hallucinations may also manifest themselves, causing one to perceive that the shadow people are talking to them. The mysterious shadow people are but hallucinations brought on by stimulation of the brain. Ask a parapsychologist, and you may get multiple answers. One theory about shadow people is that they are deceased humans who either do not want to return back to their source or are unaware that home is no longer here. They are like ghosts. Some people also believe that shadow people are time travelers coming back to view people and history. And then there is the alien connection. The alien and abduction phenomenon are so bizarre that it's no surprise that extraterrestrials are suspects as the shadow people. Abductees have reported in many cases that the alien greys seem to be able to pass through walls and closed windows and to appear and disappear abruptly among otherworldly talents. Perhaps, too, they can go about their alien agenda disguised in the shadows. There's a good deal of overlapping among the above ideas, of course. Aliens and ghosts could be interdimensional beings, or aliens could be time travelers. And some believe demons are responsible for all these disturbing phenomena. One interesting idea suggests that shadow people are the shadows or essence of people who are having an out-of-body experience. According to Jerry Gross, an author, lecturer, and teacher about astral travel, we all travel out of our bodies when we are asleep. Perhaps, this theory says, we are seeing the inferior astral bodies of those twilight travelers. Yet another intriguing theory is people from our own future could have found the means to travel to the past, our time. However they are able to accomplish this incredible feat, perhaps in that state, they appear to us merely as passing shadows as they observe the events of our timeline. Even mainstream science is fairly convinced that there are dimensions other than the one we inhabit. And if these other dimensions exist, who or what, if anything, inhabits them? Some theorists say that these dimensions exist parallel and very close to our own, although invisible to us. And if there are inhabitants in these other dimensions, it is possible that they have found a way to intrude on our dimension and become at least partially visible. If so, they could very well appear as shadows. It has long been held by psychics and other sensitives that beings on other planes of existence are of different vibrations. Science is beginning to look at reality on a quantum level in the same way that particles of the smallest size exist as vibrations. Perhaps, some theorize, the vibrations of our existence are beginning to mesh with those of another dimension, which accounts for the increase in such phenomenon as ghosts, shadow people, and possibly aliens. In one bizarre case reported by the UK publication The Star, it says CIA alien hunters claim to have contacted a race of tall shadow people on Mars. This was revealed in declassified government files. Secret documents released by the agency reveal an alien hunter made contact with a race of very tall and thin shadow people on the Red Planet. Transcripts of one of the sessions released in a CIA declassified data dump reveal a session between a government agent and an unnamed clairvoyant. Mars is probed by the subject, who claims he can see very large people wearing strange clothes, living in a rabbit warren type network of pyramids. The CIA transcript is dated May 22, 1984 at 10:09 a.m. and reveals the details of the experiment. Psychics were employed by the U.S. government during the Cold War in operations such as the Stargate Project, founded in 1978. In this experiment, agents wrote down details of what they wanted in a sealed envelope, which was given to the subject, but not opened until after the interview. Inside the sealed envelope was the information Mars, 1 million years BC, and a set of geographic coordinates. The psychic was then asked to use his powers on the information in the envelope and tell an agent what he could see. The psychic said,
"I'm seeing, it's like a perception of a shadow of people, very tall, thin. It's only a shadow. It's as if they were there and then they're not there anymore. I just keep seeing very large people. They appear thin and tall, but they're very large, wearing some kind of strange clothes. The Mars landscape is littered with pyramids, roads, obelisks. They're ancient people. They're dying. It is past their time or age. They're very philosophical about it. They're looking for a way to survive, and they just can't."
The agent continues to push the mind reader and orders him to report the raw data. Do not try and put things together.
"The Mars landscape is littered with pyramids and roads and obelisks. They're ancient people."
Mars landscape is described as littered with pyramids, roads, and obelisks by the psychic. The interview comes to a close, and he claims to make contact with one of the Martians. He described a craft like the inside of a large boat and very rounded walls and shiny metal, and claims he travels with the large people on a journey to another world covered in vegetation. The Stargate project was shut down in 1995, and claims made by the government-endorsed psychics have never been verified. Shadow people, spirits, aliens, or interdimensional beings. If they are ghosts or spirits, could they inhabit or possess a human being? There is yet another phenomenon that might relate to this. Within the realm of the bizarre, there is a new and interesting phenomenon emerging that could be shadow people possessing the bodies of children. It's called black-eyed children, and reports have been made recently. Black-eyed children, or black-eyed kids, are an urban legend of supposed paranormal creatures that resemble children between the ages of 6 and 16. With pale skin and black eyes, who are reportedly seen hitchhiking or panhandling, or are encountered on the doorsteps of residential homes. Tales of black-eyed children have appeared in pop culture since the late 1990s. The supposed origins of the legend are some 1998 postings written by Texas reporter Brian Bethel on a ghost-related mailing list relating to alleged encounters with black-eyed kids. Bethel describes encountering two such children in Abilene, Texas in 1996 and claims that a second person had a similar unrelated encounter in Portland, Oregon. Bethel's stories gained such popularity that he published an FAQ just to keep up with demand for more information about the new urban legend. In 2012, Brian Bethel told his story on the reality television series Monsters and Mysteries in America. He wrote a follow-up article for the Abilene Reporter News describing his experience and maintaining his belief that it was legitimate. Alleged sightings are taken seriously by ghost hunters, some of whom believe black-eyed children to be extraterrestrials, vampires, ghosts, or shadow people in human form. In the last few years, this frightening phenomenon of the black-eyed children visitations has swept the internet. Whether or not the stories of midnight encounters with the mysterious black-eyed kids have any truth to them has been a hotly debated topic. But that hasn't stopped tales of the BEKs from popping up on message boards, in chat rooms, and on paranormal podcasts. Who are they? Where do they come from? What do they want? We aren't sure. No matter who tells it, the encounters usually occur the same way. Someone home alone in the middle of the night hears a knock at the door. When they peek through the window, children, normally in a pair, are seen standing in the cold. As the resident cautiously cracks open the door to see what might be wrong, a familiar feeling of dread washes over them. The strange children beg to be let inside, but something isn't right. There's something off about these kids. As the lonely resident looks closer, they see that these children's eyes are black as an oil slick, an unnerving detail that causes them to slam the door and deny their pleas for entrance. Some of them call the police, others clutch a weapon, but never ever do they let the black-eyed children inside. Encounters with black-eyed children are always frightening, such as this visitation by a Marine in North Carolina. While based at Camp Lejeune, an unnamed U.S. Marine stated that in November of 2009, he had a strange encounter with black-eyed children near the barracks where he lived. The anonymous witness stated that he was alone in his room one evening watching a movie when a knock came at his door. Expecting it to be his roommate, who had forgotten his key, the Marine opened it without hesitation. When he did, though, he was presented with the sight of two small children standing outside. As soon as he saw them, the man stated he was filled with dread and had an impulse to slam the door shut as fast as he could. That was before he realized that both children had jet black eyes. Despite his fear, the Marine asked the children what they wanted, which they responded, all the while staring straight at him, that it was cold outside and that they wanted to come inside and read. The Marine suddenly realized that no one else was within sight, and as the children took a step towards the room, he gave in to the impulse that was racing through him and shut the door quickly. The knocking continued for several minutes, in addition to a rattling from his window, before the noises stopped and the children appeared to be gone. The Marine made some idle inquiries the following morning, but the few people who had been on site during his strange encounter stated that they hadn't seen or heard anything strange. There are many theories on who these children are and what they want. One must keep in mind that this falls in the category of a paranormal phenomenon, and not much can be determined as answers to the many questions that follow these encounters. Though each possible theory may have value that fits this phenomenon, The truth and the answers lie within the details of each report. Many people wrongfully refer to the black-eyed children phenomenon as an urban legend. Due to skepticism and lack of proof, many people believe that the claims are false and nothing more than just stories. This leads many people to loosely use the term urban legend. The fact is, urban legends are stories that cannot be traced to a particular person, place, or time. In order for a story to be categorized as an urban legend, the story must lack an eyewitness and cannot be accredited. In the case of black-eyed children, there are hundreds of eyewitnesses that are verifiable and can be interviewed, thus placing the black-eyed children in the category of reports. Whether you choose to believe that the reports are accounted with honesty or not, it is your choice to make. A new and disturbing phenomenon that has coincided with reports of shadow people is the Mandela effect. The Mandela effect is what researchers are calling those curious instances in which many of us are certain we remember something a particular way, but it turns out we're incorrect. The name of the theory comes from many people feeling certain they could remember Nelson Mandela dying while he was still in prison back in the 1980s. Contrary to what many thought, Mandela's actual death was on December the 5th, 2013, despite some people claiming to remember seeing clips of his funeral on television. These false memories have some people thinking their memory is faulty, but some wonder if they've gone to a parallel universe or if time travelers have gone to the past and slightly affected our present, or if they're simply losing their minds. Shadow people could be a residual appearance of beings from another dimension that has crossed over to our parallel universe and are seen briefly. Whichever it is, what's most interesting about the Mandela effect is that so many individuals share the same false memories. Here are some examples. The television show Sex and the City. It's Sex and the City, but many people insist they remember it being Sex in the City at some point. Some people have even posted pictures of old memorabilia they have that supports their false memory. The song by Queen, We Are the Champions, ends differently from what people remember. Many of those familiar with the song remember the final lyrics being, "No time for losers, 'cause we are the champions of the world." Guess what? There is no "of the world." The song just ends, and it's driving people crazy because they feel 100% sure that they've heard otherwise in the past. Curious George never had a tail. A lot of people even claim to remember seeing him use his tail to swing from the trees. If you look at pictures of Curious George right now, you'll see that he doesn't have a tail, meaning either your memory made the whole thing up or you've drifted into a parallel universe. Darth Vader does not say, "Luke, I am your father." "Luke, I am your father" is one of the most famous phrases from the film, but many are discovering that it's not what Darth Vader said. He actually says, "No, I am your father." So is this just a misremembering movie line? Or did some otherworldly shenanigans take place? Even James Earl Jones, who read the script and voiced the character of Vader, remembers it as, "Luke, I am your father." This isn't the only Star Wars-related Mandela effect instance. C-3PO is not all gold. Many Star Wars fanatics recall C-3PO being completely gold and were greatly thrown off upon discovering that he supposedly had a silver leg the entire time. A lot of memorabilia doesn't even feature the silver leg. Needless to say, it was a surprise to fans who have seen the films so many times, yet never noticed this distinct feature on a popular character. Many claim to recall a genie movie from the 1990s that starred Sinbad. The only problem is, there never was one. Those same people insist they aren't confusing it with the 1996 flick Kazam, which starred Shaq as a genie. They don't know the title or what happened to the movie's existence, but they're all very certain that once upon a time, it was a thing. Did you know that Jiffy peanut butter doesn't exist? It's called Jif, even though people remember the popular brand of peanut butter being called Jiffy and having a campaign that told mothers they could fix their kids a snack in a jiffy. Jiffy has certainly been embedded in the minds of many, and it was even spotted in American Dad during an episode in which the character is uncovering a conspiracy. There are many instances where people remember something that either didn't exist or was different from what they remember. Far too many to go into here. The Mandela effect is what happens when someone has a clear memory of something that never happened in this reality. Many of us, mostly total strangers, remember the exact same events with the exact same details. However, our memories are different from what's in history books, newspaper archives, and so on. This isn't a conspiracy, and we're not talking about false memories. Many of us speculate that parallel realities exist, and we've been sliding between them without realizing it. It's possible that shadow people, which seems to have emerged around the same time the Mandela effect was recognized, could be related. If the Mandela effect is shared memories, then in itself that would be astounding. If it is a glitch in the matrix of the physical universe, that too would be astounding. In any case, it appears that the possibility of a crossover of our universe with a parallel universe could be happening. Shadow people may be the reflections of people in that universe merging with ours, and we see them only as a shadow. The truth could be stranger than fiction. If not interdimensional beings or aliens, could shadow people be ghosts? They say that if you feel you have been visited by shadow people, there are ways to protect yourself from them. Most importantly, you will need to overcome your fear, because until you do this, they will continue to feed off of it. Not that they are intentionally trying to scare anyone. Perhaps they are trying to reach out to a person, or maybe they don't even know that they are appearing in another world. In the meanwhile, what you can do is stay calm and date the time and place you saw the shadow figure, and discuss it with other like-minded people who have experienced the same thing. If shadow people are ghosts, how do we relate to them? Paranormal investigators say shadow people are also known as dark shadows or shadow ghosts, and probably are the most misunderstood of ghost entities. A shadow is an indication of spiritual condition. It is the absence of light. Light in spirituality denotes truth, and darkness would indicate a lack of knowing or fear. In other words, shadow people are disembodied humans who are lost, having not gone forward in life's journey by refusing to go towards the light that will carry them fully into the next realm after death of the physical body. Missing the transition, ghosts remain here with those of us on Earth in a temporary state of limbo. Because we fear darkness, Many of us have come to believe that shadow people have ill intentions and thus are evil. However, most shadow people are not negative in nature and are simply lost and in need of guidance to understand their condition. Shadow people have been recorded in video as both adults and children, male and female, but often as people reliving their former lives, being trapped by the mind, and remaining as earthbound spirits. Shadow people appear to be in a state of suffering, sometimes intense, fearing retribution or confrontation with others who they have wronged in life, or the idea of being condemned to an everlasting hell as punishment for past sins. It would seem some church doctrines have created people who wish to hide in the shadows, believing they have an uncertain future that could include intense suffering. Other shadow people hang around due to attachments to people, places, and things, perhaps not realizing that their body has died. The personalities of shadow people can vary from nice to nasty. Not any different from people you will meet still here in their bodies. When a person passes, their mental and physical condition will not change until they move into the light with loved ones, as a life review or cleansing process occurs. After the life review, the spirits become clean, as misthinking is purged and truth and understanding is gained. Shadow people are therefore unclean spirits and retain their emotional and physical baggage. This will manifest as a distinct personality, mentality, ailment, pain, appearance, etc., and even odor at times. Shadow people simply seem trapped in their former state and do not appear to advance in age, intellect, or in any aspect of their condition until they choose to turn to loved ones who are with them, who are attempting to bring them forward into the light and life. The next possible explanation for shadow people is that they are aliens, perhaps using some cloaking technology that makes them appear only as a shadow. If they are aliens, then they may be using this method to observe us without being detected. Or they may have a more nefarious agenda that we have no idea is happening around us. No matter if the witness is a child or adult, he or she always see the same thing. All eyewitness accounts, no matter which country, continent, or language, give a glimpse at what was seen and experienced in the presence of shadow people. But this glimpse is a monotonous one. The only experience related to shadow ones which is not monotonous is fear. They bring a chilling feeling or vision of fear that overcomes, in the same way the black-eyed people do. In recent times, a number of people who witnessed the presence of shadow beings for longer periods of time has increased. Some testify that they have seen creepy red eyes of the dark, indistinguishable, but often massive silhouettes that instantly appear anywhere and show the ability to walk through walls of confined spaces which defy common laws of physics. Many paranormal researchers have studied the phenomenon and in particular agree on one aspect of it. Whatever or whoever these entities are, they feed off human energy, emanate bad vibrations and negative emotions. Did they find a way to enter into our dimension or accidentally slipped into our physical plane? Are they alien entities, time travelers, interdimensional beings on a mission to observe and influence humans? Or are they looking for human closeness? Aliens or alien abductors? Some people think that there is a connection between extraterrestrials and shadow people. Some say that the shadow people are the drones of the alien world, that they're here to spy on us in order to get information to pass back to the extraterrestrials. The alien abduction phenomenon are so bizarre that it's no surprise that extraterrestrials are suspects as the shadow people. Abductees have reported in many cases that the alien greys seem to be able to pass through walls and closed windows and to appear and disappear abruptly among other otherworldly talents. Perhaps, too, they can go about their alien agenda disguised in the shadows. There's a good deal of overlapping going on. Aliens and ghosts could be interdimensional beings, or aliens could be time travelers, and some believe demons are responsible for all of these disturbing phenomena. There's no way to prove or disprove any theories about a phenomenon that is so mysterious, that happens so quickly and without warning. Science finds it virtually impossible to catalog or study such phenomena in any methodical way. All they can do at present is to document personal experiences and try to piece together what the shadow people phenomenon might be. Perhaps it's an old mystery becoming more recognizable. Perhaps it represents a doorway to and from different planes of existence, or perhaps it's just shadows. Generally found in homes and very often around bedrooms, the classic shadow people tend to be lurking. They will stand in doorways or corners and just watch their victims. These types of shadow entities don't generally seem to have any intent. They are just there observing. Sometimes they will wander a location, following people or stalking them. Quite often, they flee at being noticed, vanishing around corners or simply by going through a solid wall. Typically, these are classic human-shaped shadows, sometimes with a hat, and oftentimes with a cloak or large coat. Less common is a vague figure, more like a human with a cloth over them. Encounters with this class of shadow people typically instill a sense of dread or foreboding. Whether this is part of our instinctive reaction to seeing something dark in the night, or if they actually exude a sense of fear around them, is open for debate. Some seem to just be observing us with unspoken intent. If shadow people are aliens, then this phenomenon may be revealing some type of technology they have that allows them to cloak themselves and observe humans as a dark mass rather than their actual appearance. It could be their version of a duck blind, allowing them to sit just off our reality and watch us without being observed. A camouflage technology giving them the advantage to listen in, observe, and record our daily actions. They may simply be learning more about our species to be better prepared for some open contact in the future. In this case, shadow people may be completely benign. If not, then the technology is hiding their nefarious plans in some way, and we are sensing it on a subconscious level. Until we know completely what their plans are, then they represent a clear and present danger to mankind, a danger we cannot afford to ignore. There are those that have reported being physically attacked by these entities. Some cases can be explained as sleep paralysis, which is a state of sleep where the person is awake and yet still experiencing REM sleep. The sensation of not being able to move has sometimes been accompanied with visions of menacing shadows, including a hooded figure known as the Old Hag. People have also reported these shadows physically touching and trying to harm them. The explanation may have a natural origin. However, to the person experiencing it, there is a real sense of being attacked. In most instances, the shadow usually is quickly out of sight before a person is able to focus on it, and the ones that remain seem to be more interested in watching what is going on rather than causing harm. It has been stated before that these shadow figures are purely caused by an individual's state of mind, and that anxiety and stress could have caused an overactive mind which created these shadow figures. Other areas that have been blamed for these sightings are sleep paralysis, illusions or hallucinations brought on by psychological or physiological circumstances, drug use or side effects of medication, and the interaction of external agents on the human body. Another reason that could be behind the illusion is sleep deprivation, which may lead to hallucinations. Many methamphetamine addicts report the appearance of shadow people after prolonged periods of sleep deprivation. Psychiatrist Jack Potts suggests that methamphetamine usage adds a conspiratorial component to the sleep deprivation hallucinations. They seem to be aware of our presence and actually seem to want us to feel reluctance, fear, or even panic in their presence. Documentation of adverse effects caused by shadow people is fairly modest. In fact, in most cases, they appear or disappear gradually as soon as detected. Shadow people do not seem to speak any words nor close to the witness while standing at the entrances in corners of rooms. Some people who have seen them were aware of their existence and say they were strangers or beings slipping in and out of our physical plane. Are they an elusive race that has always coexisted with us humans? It's an interesting theory because it suggests that these beings do not only exist, but are also frequent guests in our lives. However, in eyewitness accounts, particularly one observation is mentioned very often, namely, the observation of conformity of shadow apparitions. According to paranormal researcher Heidi Hollis, shadow people are malevolent, supernatural entities. While it is remotely possible that shadow people could physically hurt you, perhaps through the moving of objects, they are more likely to attack you emotionally, as fear is what gives them energy. It can make you feel very lonely and worried once you have seen a shadow figure appear in your vision, as it is not something that you can freely talk about in public. This bizarre yet creepy brief encounter can make a person feel like they are going mad, but you are not alone. Many are having these encounters. Another interesting factor about these sightings is that animals are apparently able to see and sense these possible interdimensional visitors. So if you ever see your pet looking up against a wall anxiously, it could mean that your shadowy friends are back again, but perhaps just not visible to you this time. Along with shadow people, there are occasionally reports of shadow animals. Nearly every shadow animal has the distinction of being described as cat-like or of possessing cat-like characteristics. Some report that shadow animals appear to be a hybrid between a cat and some other animal or some other creature. They always move incredibly quickly. They're usually realized by the viewer after they are spotted and have left the area. Several stories have a sense of flight to them. The shadow animal is seen, then realizing it, it suddenly flees. Other cases describe shadow animals as running through a location, as if scampering through. Unlike shadow people, shadow animals do not leave harboring feelings of negativity. They may leave a sense of surprise and possibly urgency to flee, but they do not appear malicious. The intent of shadow animals is unknown. Some believe that they are animal souls passing through to the next phase of existence, but there is simply no known pattern as to who spots them, when, why, or what seeing a shadow animal means. Rarely is the face of the animal seen or reported. Usually, general features of the body are noticed, but the face is missing, faded, or obscured. The size of a shadow animal can vary from small mice-like shapes to one report of a bear-sized manifestation. The types of animal characteristics usually involve a cat, but also those of other animals, such as a dog-like or crab-like, monkey-like, rabbit-like, and raccoon-like descriptions. There are many theories to the question of what shadow creatures are, and yet no real definitive answer. Much of it has to do with personal beliefs and experiences people have had. It can't be ignored that these sightings are numerous and similar in nature. Whatever the truth is, the mystery continues to fascinate and intrigue those who know they have saw something. A good bit of confusion exists over just what a shadow person is and how to define them. It is obvious that there are several types of shadow people, all with different sources and motives. Shadow people are a pariah in our darkest fears. Anyone can imagine waking in the middle of the night only to see in their sleepy haze a shape standing in the dark doorway to their room. A shape that is darker than the surrounding night. A shape that seems malevolent, standing and watching you as you sleep. You can imagine the thoughts that would go through your head. What is it? Where did it come from? What does it want? How long has it been there? Because the classification of shadow people is so large, their motivations are fairly wide-ranging. Oftentimes, the apparent motivation of shadow people is tied to their source. There seem to be a class of shadow people that are less interested in what we are doing, but have their own agenda. They are seen typically going from one place to another and seem not particularly interested in the goings-on of those that observe them. Of all the types of shadow people, these are the least understood, as they do not linger and interact with us. The persistent shadow people of the lurking variety don't generally seem to be purely evil in intent, and almost seem more interested in us, or at least in feeding off our energy. Others are simply negative manifestations of spirits. Almost universally, though, they are a sign of something negative. Demonic forms vary widely, but usually retain a humanoid shape, but are often exaggerated in height, have wings or horns or elongated fingers. They do not give the impression of being a normal ghost or sentient entity. Luckily, these demonic shadow people are typically tied to one location. There is no way to prove or disprove any theories about a phenomenon that is so mysterious, that happens so quickly and without warning. Skeptics say the shadow people are the result of an overactive imagination, but the history of shadow people and the number of occurrences seems to dictate otherwise. Until the day comes when a shadow person can be interviewed, we may never fully know why they are appearing, but if you are one of the people who is seeing them, be sure to protect yourself. Science finds it virtually impossible to catalog or study such phenomenon in any methodical way. All we can do at present is to document personal experiences and try to piece together what the shadow people phenomenon might be. Perhaps it's an old mystery becoming more recognizable. Perhaps it represents a doorway to and from different planes of existence. Or perhaps it's just shadows.